So my third studio album is coming up. It's called Lifeline. The whole idea of making an album pretty much came together during the COVID times. I started creating all these ideas which were all over the place. Some of them were more progressive, some of them were more melodic, and a lot of creativity going through me. And then I realized that I've actually gained a lot of ideas. That's how the whole idea of actually putting all these music together, making an album came together, which ultimately became Lifeline itself. I've got inspired through a lot of things, watching a lot of movies, watching a lot of art, reading some stuff, also listening to other people's music. And that's why you can hear a lot of progressive sounds in there, because at that time kind of the whole world slowed down. I wasn't necessarily making music for the clubs or for the festivals, and it was more the music that was destined to be listened. So that's why almost half of the album is like pretty slow, pretty progressive, very deep in a way. But of course, I knew that this whole thing is going to be over at some point, so I wanted to have some space for faster and more banging tracks, which you can find in the second part of the album, which is like more uplifting, 135, 138, hands in the air, anthem style. Well, it's a track that this vocal came in at some point during the writing. It was probably one of the hardest tracks that I finished, because we knew that the vocal is so good, and I've tried so many demos and reiterations. This vocal and the melody, every time we were like, this is quite nice, but it's still not there. And then I tried a second version and they were like, oh, this is still also very cool, but quite not there. And that's when the whole idea of Florentin joining in came to me, and I was like, I love their sound. They can try an idea based on what we had, the vocal and the melody and some guitars and elements. And that's how the guys joined this song, this project, and with everybody's effort, and Florentin with their sound design, the track came about, and I think it was the perfect result. That's when we knew, okay, now it's ready, now it's perfect to be sent to radio and to actually represent the Lifeline album as well. It's always challenging and sometimes hard to work with different artists, because everybody is trying to implement their visions and ideas into these projects that we work together. But at the end of the day, you know, it's my album, so I want to make it the way I see it. And I think I've done a pretty good job, communicating with all the vocalists and all the artists and finding a middle ground. And hopefully everybody enjoys the result.
I see your face in the tears that I cry.
The track I Wish with Roby C, it's also included in the Lifeline album, but it got released like a few weeks ago. We actually made this pretty much at the same time we made another song that is already very known and people like, Stars Collide. So that was like 2.5 years ago, maybe even more. So we pretty much made 2 tracks in parallel at the same time. And people think, oh, you made a follow-up collaboration. Well, it's not really a follow-up. We made it a long time ago together with the other song, and everybody seemed to enjoy this one. Another track from the album, Feels Like Home. That one I've written specifically for my wife a few months before we got married. And I had like a whole plan for this song. I knew that I'm writing this one for her. It needed to be emotional. So Adil is the artist on the vocals, and I was talking to her like, during that time a lot, like, hey, you know, I have this beautiful melody, I have, you know, my girlfriend, we're gonna be married, I wanna have something very emotional, something that can connect us. She actually got inspired from a post that I've made for at that time, she was still my fiance. I made it on Instagram, I think it was during her birthday or something, and she wrote the things that I said to her on Instagram. She got inspired from that and wrote the lyrics for the song. And I knew that we're gonna have our first dance on this song, so I made a special version for that. So it was like a whole plan, this whole vision in mind from the start, that, you know, dedicating this album to my wife, to my future wife at that time. I want to have our first dance, it's going to be in the album, so this whole connection story was made. Well, first of all, I hope all the listeners are open-minded and they're ready to experience some new sounds and experiments for myself, because Lifeline consists of tracks with a sound that they're very familiar. I would say it's more the second half, which is, you know, pure trance, pure uplifting emotions. But the first half, it's a little bit more unexpected for myself, with all the progressive and maybe some commercial sounds. And the last song, which is, I don't even know what genre is that. That's like a soundtrack to me. It's like it's not even electronic dance music, but I wanted to have something like that in the album. And I think the album is the perfect place to experiment like that. Or the track that I made with Jess, which is, I don't know, break beats or whatever genre that is, but it's still super trancey. So I hope they're open-minded and they get to experience my artistic vision and the whole concept and everything that I wanted to say through each and every single song.